interesting about the Round Club was that it's so vivid and lush. There are these rich pinks and teals and patterns everywhere. And on a purely aesthetic, formal level, those are the kind of scenes that I'm looking for. And scenes that actually feel like they would come out of a movie or a film. And in some ways, the Round Club epitomizes this kind of space. On the other hand, it's historically a space of exclusion, and women were not allowed in for many years. These spaces were created by men, for men, these potent, dominant, powerful spaces, and I just couldn't resist the opportunity to take it and to reuse it in a different way. Originally, I was looking at B-grade movie scenes, and I was thinking about how women are portrayed in film. They've always been objectified. There's sort of a sexual innuendo in the way that they're always portrayed. When I was watching all of these films, I was wondering how I would be able to portray these ethereal creatures that came on and off the stage. And if it's possible to look at ourselves and look at women in a different way, and the way that women have historically been filmed in movies. I very quickly realized that I didn't want to work from other people's images, that I wanted to create my own images and transform them into sequins. I decided to approach someone to be the photographer of the works and to see how things played out when I played the role of the director. I think that when you work on something yourself, sometimes you don't have the distance to be critical of the final product. Working with a team has allowed me to rethink and rework and reprocess the final product of what I've made. In this series, there are a couple of things that I'm looking at. The first being the female gaze, and the way male gaze works is that you don't actually see. You're always just looking over at this idea of what a woman is, and the female gaze forces you to look at what the woman is. Who is she? What does she want? Why is she there? What does it mean? One of the things that I've been looking at a lot in recent years is the monstrous feminine, which is this very provocative, empowered, strong woman who, in a way, becomes grotesque in the world because she is so assertive and so free. And this is interesting in the way that things push over from being beautiful and acceptable to becoming dangerous and unmanageable. I've recently become interested in making work about what I think of as the mirror phase. And this is the phase where a woman looks at herself in the mirror and the reflection she sees is not who she feels she is anymore. Your idea of self starts diverging. We live in a society that's always asking us to reject the idea of aging, that it's something that we have to fear, because when we become old as women, we become invisible. So the series is looking at older women and asking us to really look at them and look at them still as women, as sort of sexual, desirable, sensuous beings. There's also the idea of the older figure and the younger figure. So there's a kind of looking forwards and looking backwards feeling in the series. The young girl represents this frozen state of who we are expected to be versus who we actually are. I'm also looking at the shadow masculine figure, which in some ways links to the Round Club, this invisible patriarchy that we're always influenced by. I've always been interested in using unusual materials that are not generally associated with art. We adorn ourselves with these materials, with sequins and beads, in order to make ourselves more, to make ourselves brighter and flashier. These are materials of aspiration. I wanted to work with sequins because they form an image that is both there, but also not there. And when I started embarking on this project, I realized the extent of the palette and the different surfaces of these sequins. Some were iridescent. The way they reflect light means that they refuse to hold an image. The sequin series are actually the most complex pieces that I've ever worked on, purely because there's so many processes and so many different parts involved in it. The first stage of the process is to choose a woman and to find a space, because each series of the sequin pieces deals with a slightly different topic. I chose to work with women who I thought would be interesting when they were asked to act out these scenes. Strong characters who had a real presence and that I related to. The second phase is to actually take the photographs. I decided to set up the scenes as film shoots. They're massive productions that have stylists, hair, makeup, costumes. It's like a small film set. Then the next phase is choosing the photographs and then working out through grids which colours go where. The pieces can have up to 80 colours, and these are all numbered and made into signs to work out which colours to put alongside each other. Then I have a team that I work with that stitch the sequins on one by one. The teams have been working with me for many years, so it's a continual process of learning and relearning and learning new things. The projects become more ambitious, the palette becomes more ambitious, the way we work becomes more ambitious as we continue. There's something very physical about the experience of looking at the sequin pieces. When you're actually in front of them, they're like a mirage that never holds the image in the same kind of way. So if you step 1 meter to the left or the right, it's a completely different picture. They're like an unending game. What I love about that is that it becomes a metaphor for these kind of women that I'm looking at. This idea that we're meant to be one thing, and yet it's almost impossible to hold on to this ideal that we're fighting to achieve all the time.